There's a good question.
So how do you find these sites? What's your sourcing strategy?
This was for an agent.
Really?
Yeah.
So I was on the market.
Yeah. And we bought all of this.
What's your build cost at the moment?
160-ish square foot. There's so much to know. We bought the site for... Welcome to our channel. If you want to see the ins and outs of construction sites like this as projects progress, make sure you like this video and also follow us to see more. Cool. Right, welcome to Archway Court, Marlow. To be honest, where do you want me to start? There's so much to know. I mean, ultimately, I'll give you a quick overview. So this used to be an office at the front, and where we're standing now used to actually be a dance studio. So the dance studio had been here for 30 years, Jam Studio it's called. It was run by some local sort of performing arts teachers. Lots of the local kids came here, but ultimately during COVID, it sort of came into financial difficulty, basically. When we first bought the site, we got planning approval to convert the front section into 4 flats. And we were actually planning to keep this as a dance studio. You know, we thought they've been here for a long time. They're pretty strong covenant, or should be a pretty strong covenant. We'll just refinance, re-gear the lease that they were on and just have them, you know, continue doing their dance school thing. Because of COVID, obviously they went into financial difficulty and ultimately said that we can't afford to stay here, which opened the door for us to then convert this to another 4 flats. So we've got 8 flats in total. We've got a mix of a 3-bedroom at the front, a 2-bed on the ground floor, 2 1-beds in that front portion, and then we've got 1 bed, split level 2-bed, and another 1-bed at the back here. We bought the site for £1.1 million from the original vendor, but we brought in an investment partner that effectively agreed at a purchase price of £1.2 million. So when we got the planning approval, added value, we actually had an offer on the table to buy it from us at 1.35 million. So when bringing in our investment partner, we said, look, we know we've added value. We want to capitalise on some of that. We're buying it for 1.1, but you can come in at 1.2, which was kind of a happy medium in terms of the value, and you know, still a really, really decent project for the investment partner coming in. So these type of things we do on a either an equity basis, so a 50-50 joint venture partnership basically. We are the delivery partner, we find it, we deliver it, we execute and you know, raise the senior debt finance, and then the investment partners come in as a 50-50 partnership. So they bring the cash, we bring the time and the expertise to deliver it, and then we split the profits at the end. There are schemes like Tame, which we'll visit later, where our investment partners come in purely on just a loan investment. So we effectively own the 100% shares of the company that purchases the assets, and they provide a loan note to allow us to purchase the property. And some investment partners want that, some people want equity. You know, we sort of tailor it to suit whatever the investor wants and what the sort of project can demand, I guess. Historically, it's been a 50-50 split between loan investment and equity, to be honest.
Who did the senior debt?
So the senior debt on this one was Think Property Finance. In Tame, it's Fiducium. In the old Maltings in Abingdon, it's Fiducium as well. And we have just bought the bank that we'll be visiting last in cash with one of our investment partners. So it's the first time we've done that, where we've bought outright in cash. But fundamentally, there's a few things we want to do from a planning perspective that allows us to basically get all that done, secured, and then we'll bring the senior debt in to relinquish some of the investors' funds. Less red tape, less process, less transactional costs at this point, and a sort of size of ticket that they were sort of comfortable with. So it's nice when you can do that from a red tape and paperwork perspective, getting an investor, a bank, and the seller into a position where everything's ready and deeds of priorities, and it just becomes a mess.
Yeah, sure.
Which is what we've done on most of our schemes, but it's been quite nice having just one investor to deal with, one lending partner, and cracking on and purchasing it pretty swiftly. So any questions about sort of the scheme?
Did you have any challenges?
Challenges on here are still challenges that we're battling with at the moment, which seems to be the case for most of our schemes. Thames Water, absolute nightmare. You'll see the blue cables as we came in rolled up. They were meant to install them, I think, first in the middle of February. That got pushed back. Then they were meant to come in at the end of March. That got pushed back. They were meant to come in 2 weeks later. That got pushed back. We've now got a date from them, the 27th of May. We can't finish and get building control sign-off until those water connections are made. It's holding up, installing and commissioning the sprinkler system in this flat. It delays everything.
Why is it delayed, Ben? What's the problem?
I mean, there's a mixture of blaming Thames Water, but also the highways team are, I'd say, predominantly to blame because they won't give the permits. So the Thames Water need a permit to do the works. We're on a junction here. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but ultimately we've had this application in since July last year.
Do you have to close the street?
Not close the street completely. No, it's luckily like all of the water connections are this side of the street, so it will be. I think there's traffic management, but it's not difficult. They were given a permit a couple of Sundays ago, yet for some reason it didn't go ahead. So I mean, I'm fed up, to be honest, with talking about Thames Water.
The new water connection.
Yeah.
It stops your development completely.
Well, it just means that we can't commission boilers, we can't commission the sprinkler system.
Is there anything else you can do?
We can't get building control sign off. Like we can do a lot of the work in preparation and readiness for those connections, but until they're connected, we can't sell any of these flats until that's connected. So, we've got 5 of. So we had an open day back in January. We had about 50 people on the open day, and within 1 week we had 5 of the 8 under offer, which is amazing. We've now got 6 under offer, with a 7th, which is this unit where we do have an offer. It's close to asking. Like, we're on the market for 525 with this one. The offer's coming at 500. They're pretty proceedable, but ultimately, I think this will be one of the best units. When it's fully finished and we can get professional photos carried out, I think we'll have a bit more interest and we should be able to achieve the levels that we expected to. So at the moment, this is a 2-bed split level. We'll go into this one in a minute. I mean, let's go in now actually. It's 2 bedrooms at the top and then the open plan kitchen living space as you go in, basically. So
It's Carlos.
yeah.
Is it Carlos?
Carless, yeah, car free. They can get permits for the local public parking, but it was a slight concern coming into it. But all the buyers, I mean, I don't recall any of the agents saying it's been an issue for people. We've had, I think, 73 inquiries since launching, which is solid. And obviously, yeah, we've got a lot of them under offer already. So it didn't seem to put people off. We've got a first-time buyer where sort of banker mum and dad is sort of helping them out on a couple of these. It's sort of like first-time buyers or downsizers. Okay, nothing in the middle. Yeah. It's that sort of profile. Selling all of this, yeah. Yeah, this was always for sale. The front 3-bed is the only one. If any of the units was going to stick, it would have been that one. And that is the one that is currently still.
How many square
still on the
meters is
market.
the entire space that you purchased?
There's a good question.
Square feet
It's about
So
5,000 square feet-ish. Yeah, something like that.
Square feet, how many?
About 5,000-ish.
What's that in meters?
Okay. Let's ask.
500-ish. Yeah.
And that application you've had in since last July, so when did you actually acquire the site?
So we bought it in December, January last year. So like December 23, January 24. So we've been on site for now about 14 months.
Okay.
But not on site for 14 months, been on site for about 11. In terms of like enabling works and site setup and getting prepped and jam studio moving out and all this sort of stuff. The only extensions we've done are the 3 dormers on this roof. And then this, we did an infill of this part of the building. So we brought this wall out to make this unit a lot better from a bedroom perspective and this unit a lot better from a kitchen, dining, living space. The rest of it was internal rearranging. The front 4 flats don't have any private amenity, but these 4 do. They have these cute little courtyards, which obviously is a good selling point. It doesn't seem to have put people off the front 3. I guess everything has a price. We try and get private amenity on as much as we can nowadays, because I certainly think it's very important to have. But yeah, there's just not enough space to do it for those front ones.
And planning-wise, so all Class MA?
No, this is full planning. Conservation area, listed building. Class MA doesn't apply. It was full planning for both. So we did the front section, 4 units, then did the rear section. It took a long time initially because we had our first application refused because they wanted us to prove that there was no demand for the commercial space for the offices. So we had to market it for at least 9 months to prove that there wasn't any interest.
How much did you spend on all the planning?
The planning, we probably spent about 40 grand to get all of the reports. I mean, it's done by my own architecture practice, so a bit of mates rates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, it took a few applications. We had the front extension, we had the front application, we had the rear application, various conditions that we had to discharge. With all applications nowadays, there's so many supplementary assessments and reports that you have to do. I mean, it's become ludicrous. We didn't bring a planning consultant on board. I mean, in hindsight, I probably would have done, but I figured we can manage it ourselves. So we saved a bit of money there.
Application at all with the council?
No. I mean, the fact that we had the first one rejected gave us everything we needed to know in terms of what we need to do going forward.
But you could have found out earlier on that actually you needed to do the employment thing.
Yeah, that's the only mistake I think we made. I think bringing on a planning consultant would have probably highlighted that. I think we just thought we'll risk it. So on this one, we brought forward the finishes of this flat particular, and we created this as a show home. So we furnished everything so that people could basically envisage themselves living in this flat, and that really helps to sell the dream. You know, when people are buying flats, they often buy emotionally, and they want to envisage themselves living in the spaces. So we try and do whatever we can to make it feel like it's their home. And by creating a show flat like this, it helps to sell all of the rest of the units. And we actually had an open day of 50 people, with this one being the finished show flat. And within a week of that open day, we had 5 of these 8 flats under offer. So it does go to show, I think, that staging assets like this goes a long way to the sales process. We pulled forward the show home. So the show home was finished back in January. So they could see and touch and feel the finishes, which is important. You know, you want people to be able to, as quickly as possible, sort of get a sense for how the finish is going to look and what the what the kitchen is, what the bathrooms are. So they could see all that from the show home, and then the 5 offers came off the back of that.
Did you deal with that one yourself?
No, so with this project, we had a sales consultant working with us. So we're doing that on this one, and we've done it on Tame. He is sort of land and new homes kind of specialist background. He set up his business to cater for small developers like us that don't have an internal sales team. So he's basically an outsourced internal sales team for us. He's the one coordinating with the sales agents. We've got Savills and a local company called RJ Property, Richard Jackson Property. But Ian, our sales consultant, is the one that kind of coordinates everything and has those conversations. And he's the one fielding the calls when we get offers. So he'll come to me and say, "Oh, we've just had an offer for flat 6. It's at 500 grand. I've pushed back and said it's not enough. We'll wait to hear back." So he's the one doing all of that. So it frees up, our time. It's just, for the cost of a small upfront fee and then a small percentage on each sale, for us, we've got 65 units that we're delivering at the moment across 5 sites. We're selling 55 of those 65. There's no way that I can manage all of that process, even if we do have agents. So bringing Ian on 2 of those has really helped kind of free up some of the time. When I was talking about the fire issues, it was for this, not Marlow. Yeah, it's the top floor flats. That was one issue, and then the other issue was that was the main one. That's still the main sticking point. So we've now got building control sign-off for ground floor and first floor. What's sticking is the top floor flats, where our building control inspector has to speak to his director and talk through the scenario. And since Grenfell, since the Building Safety Act, building control are just all over fire. They don't want to take any risk. So they will ask for justification after justification, when our fire engineer has basically, his last email was, I'm not commenting anymore on this. I have justified this as far as I see fit. He's an expert witness. He's in the courts providing expert witness, justification for other people. He doesn't see why we're at this stage on this project. It's a 3-story building. It's a off-the-shelf plume suppression system that's been designed, commissioned and installed by a specialist. Every day that goes by is costing us £1,000, until we get those certificates. So, frustrated.
They give you a deadline as well, don't they?
Yeah, so that deadline is now over. Yeah, so after final inspection, there's 8 weeks that they have to provide the final certificates. Otherwise, they have to start the whole process again with the council. He said, look, it's okay on this particular site because we've ultimately got partial completions. So there's 2 flats that aren't complete yet anyway, and our original application was for 9 flats, not 7. So he's like, no, it's fine, you know, we can deal with this, but technically there's an 8-week process. Yeah. We'll come in. I mean, this is a bit of an awkward one because the agent is sort of selling it to some people as a 2-bed and selling it to some people as a 3-bed. Technically, I mean, for me it's a 3-bed, and this is the kitchen, dining, living space.
Yeah.
But it's slightly on the small side. So some agents, depending on who they're talking to, have classified that 3rd bedroom as the living room. So you've got kitchen, dining here, then you've got living next door. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a 3-bed. I think it sort of suits somebody that's looking for an investment and just wants to rent it out as a HMO. Because from a rental perspective, I think you'd make good money on this. And I think that will be the profile of the eventual buyer that buys this.
What do you think? This is a small living dining?
I think it's about 22 square metres. Like, I typically want 24 square metres, like as a minimum for my kitchen, dining, living spaces. And because you've got the steps coming down, you've got this wall here, it just feels smaller. But because it's a listed building, we can't go smashing walls around and removing that chimney and stuff. You know, it was hard enough getting that opening through. So yeah, I mean, for some people it's probably fine. I think once this is all cleared up and you've got the furniture in it, it probably feels bigger than it is now.
What level of detail would you sort of go into before you sort of have to step in and say, or you?
I mean, we ideally want the contractor to be able to work off as much drawing work as possible, because otherwise then you have like conflicting and there's obvious things that when you walk on site and it's been drawn that way and it's planned to be built that way, you sometimes look at it and go, this doesn't make sense. So as an example, at the last site we're at, you know the flat that's dressed, that was originally designed, so when you got to the end of the corridor, it was a store cupboard, and then you go into the master bedroom and an ensuite. And I was like, let's split that ensuite in half, have an ensuite and a main bathroom, and put the storage cupboard in the hallway. But on a plan, you wouldn't be able to visualise it and see that. And at that point we said, change of plan, stop. So there's always an element of changes as you go. But like, all of this stuff is really down to Tom and Ben, really, the design stuff. But we always want our designs to be almost as followable as possible. So when we so like this site, for an example, we'll strip it out completely, and then we will then go into detailed design plans with the strip out already out, so that we can see the steel structures and beams and everything, which obviously makes life a lot easier. We're going to show you through the site, but just give you a bit of an overview from the outside because it's a bit easier. We obviously own the red brick building that you can see and all the car park that goes round. With these 9 units here that you can see, it's a bit like a Rubik's Cube, 333. And out of these 9, 7 are saleable because of access. 2 are not saleable because they fall into phase 2, because we've got a communal hallway and a lift going in at that end of the building. We've actually sold 4.
5 of the 7 now under offer.
Yeah, so 5 of the 7 are sold. A lift, yeah, we're putting a lift in.
Why?
Because most of the buyers, well, 50% of the buyers here will be elderly.
Is this 3-storey?
This is 3-storey, yeah. We also negotiated to move Affinity Trust, who are the tenant in here, over to the ground floor and number 5 here. They were paying £14 a square foot. We've upped that to 16.5 and 17.5 a square foot. One's a 10-year lease, one's a 15-year lease. Full repairing. Affinity have done their own fit out, so they've upped the value of our building anyway. So just that bit alone is probably valued at about 1.4, 1.5 now. We bought the whole site for 2.3. So these five of these are sold, and we're obviously waiting for phase 2, which is another 11 flats to add on to the 9, which is 20 total, and the lift, and then we can finally sell the last 2, which need to be accessible here. So we've actually finished the 9, but we can't get building control sign off until the communal hallway and access is finished. So it's pretty simple. It's 2-bed, 1 bed. We're selling the 1 beds for 250, the 2 beds for 350. We could actually fit 4 houses in, but the snooker club have a legacy parking agreement that prohibit us being able to build houses there, because they obviously can't park their cars there. We're currently negotiating that with them.
Okay, so how many are you building? 2?
We're in appeal for 2.
Right.
If we get the consent for the 2 and we successfully negotiate with them, we'll go back in for 2 more.
Right.
We were delaying the negotiations and the applications for 4 because it then meant the overage sellers will get a bit more excited, and we wanted to downplay that. And actually, since the planning application was rejected on heritage grounds, because it borders a conservation area,
Right.
we renegotiated that overage would be struck off for 25 grand one-off fee.
What was the price per square foot in the end? You said 250 for the 1 bed.
So it works out about 450 square foot exit values. So 250 for the 1 beds as a whole price, 250 grand, and then 350 for the 2 beds.
And that's at £450 a square foot for the 1
Yes,
bed?
yeah.
Yeah. What's your build cost at the moment for a square foot?
This one we're probably tracking, obviously there's quite a bit of external work, balconies and things. What are we tracking build cost? Probably about 90 a unit?
90 grand.
Yeah.
Right, it's about again 160-ish square foot, fully finished.
19k per unit.
90
in terms of cost.
So out of the 8 units, we've dressed one of them for the site open day, as in for the sales, and also just continuously. So this one is actually sold, but we use it to show the finish, the detail, the furniture, and what it could look like, so people can sort of picture that, as well as it feeling a little bit more homely. It's actually one of the smaller flats, but you can see we obviously do kitchen, living space, and then down the hallway we've then got 2nd bedroom, master bedroom and ensuite, and then bathroom at the end. So we bought the site for 1.1 million, which is what we agreed to buy conditional to planning consent. We've spent around sort of 850, 900k on construction. The GDV originally was about 3.1. We actually believe that we're going to achieve about 3.3 in sales once we've concluded it. So a nice little couple of £100,000 buffer over and above what we actually thought in the first place. The margin should be anywhere around sort of 8 to 900, depending on how long those sales actually take, because we're currently held up by Thames Water. So all in all, quite a cushy, profitable deal. We JV'd on a 50-50 with a private investor on this, so they're a co-shareholder in the limited company. We own that 50-50. They've put the capital in, we've done everything else. So they should be getting about 50% of their money back for the duration of the project. We have to probably sell 13 or 14 flats until the bank's paid off. So until that point, each flat is going down in value because it's costing us to hold it empty. And normally a person will go, I'll rent it out. But we can't do that because then it will ruin the new build feel. So we just have to get it sold. And the 2 things that sell something, well, there's 2 main factors that we control, and then there's 1 factor we can't control. 2 factors we can control are marketing and price. If you've got one of those wrong and you change it, if you price something right but haven't marketed it right, you won't sell it. If you market something right but the price is wrong, you won't sell it. So you've got to get those both right. And if you've got the marketing right, all you can do is drop the price. That's not, otherwise it's not going to sell. And then the third factor is the market conditions, because there are periods where less, 50% less in buying at the moment because of X, Y, and Z. So I find houses got really expensive recently in the last few years. Like if I look at the first HMO we did 10 years ago, the kitchen for a 5-bed HMO was £2,500. It's now 8, and it's the same kitchen. They've produced it still.
That's 8 without appliances, right, and without labour.
With appliances, without labour. But what I do, the best thing to do with any form of supplier is play them off each other. So every single project that we have done with Mass or Howdens, they've both seen each other quotes to get each other down. Time and time again, you get the lower quote and just go, how could you do it better than this? And then you get back and say, I've got a better quote. And then you get them to where they go, I can't do anymore, and then you go, cool, I'll order it. We might have a bit of water.
So how do you find these sites? What's your sourcing strategy?
This was for an agent.
Really?
Yeah.
So I was on the market?
Yeah. Yeah, right move. Carter Jonas was the agent that sold it to us. Coincidentally, the same agent that sold us the other block 14, which was also on the market. We were actually outbid by a owner-occupier who wanted to run this as a part science lab and part offices.
Okay.
But there's a restriction on the title that you can only use it for offices or resi.
If you're getting value from this video, we are live every Friday at 5 PM across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the video type platforms. We also repurpose that video into audio format, so you can find us over on Spotify, Apple Music, and all your other podcast platforms.